Hi, Lian. How are you?
Hi, Zanni. I'm good, thank you.
Well, very exciting to be on the brink of your launch of your new book. Can you tell us a little bit about Fledgewitch?
Okay, yeah, I'm very excited about this one. It's the second book in the Dragons of Hallow series, so it's the follow-up. Hang on, that site. It's the follow-up to Spellhound. Uh, it's set in the land of Quill, which is right next door to Hallow, and it's the story of a 10-year-old girl called Brim who wakes up one morning to find that her elbows are sprouting feathers, which, as we know, is the sign that you're a witch, and witches are against the law in Hallow. It's
Uh-huh.
also the story of a very forgettable horned glob called Snort, who desperately needs to find a dragon. And dragons are also against the law in Hallow. And these two find themselves trapped inside the School for Prevention of Witches, along with a dragon who may have turned up in Spellhound. And a very cynical paper knife who was also in Spellhound.
He's,
This was such fun to write. I had huge fun
he is
writing this with
one of
Zanni.
my favorite characters of all time.
The
So, yeah.
paper knife, the
Oh,
paper knife
yeah.
who,
He is
who used to be a
hilarious.
sword. He's just so, I don't know if he's a he.
He
I
or
don't think he has a
they.
gender at all. I
Yeah.
kind of
Okay.
I call it it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that little paper knife is such fun to write. That level of cynicism in a
Oh,
small character is a real
he's so
is such
funny.
fun.
Laugh aloud funny, that character. All of these characters are just divine. I mean, that pitch in itself, everyone must just be salivating right now because there are so many glorious elements to this idea. Everyone wants to get into your mind for a moment, Lian, and enjoy this wonderful magical world that you have created. There's just so many amazing elements to it. So, I mean, you had the setup or the template, I suppose, from Spellhound, but where did these fabulous characters come from? Were there any particular sparks that triggered for you?
Yeah, yeah. When Allen and Unwin signed me up for Spellhound, when they offered me the contract, they offered me a two-book contract, and I had been thinking of Spellhound as a standalone.
Mhm.
But I mean, I wasn't going to say, "Oh no, thank you. I don't want to write. I don't want this second book." So I said, "Yeah," and I signed it, and I started thinking about, well, what on earth am I going to do with this second book? Because Spellhound ended with the mystery solved, the secrets revealed, and I like a very strong character arc in a book. And each of the characters in Spellhound had gone through that arc and had found themselves at the end of the book in a new place, a stable place, a place that they were happy in. So I thought about it for a while and thought, well, do I knock them off that place? Do I drag them out of their happy lives and say, no,
Mhm.
sorry, you thought it was all over and it's not. And that didn't sit very well with me. So I went back I reread the book and I was looking for what people call Easter eggs, those kind of little hints that we drop inside books. And sometimes we drop them unconsciously and sometimes we drop them consciously. And so I was looking for those and looking for something that might give me a way into a second book. And I found a couple of lines. There was one line where Queen Felicia was talking about ambassadors and prime ministers. And she was talking about the way they smiled at her. And she said something about shallow, shallow ambassadorial smiles. I can't remember the exact wording now, but it started me thinking, okay, this is the ambassador from Quill. What if there's something a little bit more sinister behind that shallow smile? So that was kind of what drew me towards the country of Quill and what might be happening there and whether there were things happening there that we needed to know about. And the other thing was when I was inventing the floating forest, where the story starts, where Spellhound starts, I came up with a whole lot of different animals, different creatures that lived there. And there were Minchwiggins, there were Sketters who smell terrible. There were Morkits who grow hunting teeth at a certain time of year. And there were horned globs who are very, very forgettable. And I thought, this would be a really interesting challenge to write a story about it where one of the central characters is very, very forgettable, and where his only defense really is that he's forgettable, because horned globs are kind of like, they're like little cows with very short legs but very long fur, and they have horns, obviously from the name, and their only defense is that people forget about them pretty much as soon as they see them, you know. So if a horned glob runs across in front of you, you go, what on earth? Oh, and so Zanni, I was talking, you know, so you just kind of completely forget that they're there or that you ever saw them. And that was both challenging and really enjoyable, really delightful to write about. And how then I tied him in with Brim, the other main character, and how she might remember him, and how people could remember him at the climax when they had to remember him, all sorts of stuff like that. So it was a big challenge, but it was interesting to write.
Oh,
And he turned out to be a really delightful character.
he is absolutely, I mean, I said the knife was my favorite, but he is definitely up there. Just an absolutely adorable character. As you know, my daughter adores your books,
Yep.
Clara and Rita. Like, she's a huge, huge fan. And weirdly, her favorite animal is the Highland cow. So
Wait till she gets hold of Snort.
exactly. I mean, just this idea. And isn't there a like there's an element of knitting that
there's an element of knitting. I kind of seem to be writing a whole lot of books about knitting at the moment. So Brim knits. That's what she does. It's sort of, it makes her happy, it keeps her calm, and all sorts of stuff. And the knitting turns out to be a really important part of the story, which I don't actually want to give away at the moment. But yeah, she's a very keen knitter. She knits socks for her family who live in the high mountains of Quill. So yeah, knitting.
Very important. Tell us a little bit about Brim, because she's a really interesting character as well.
Brim lives with her mum and her dad and her older brother Mika. They all live, they milk cows. They have a herd of dairy cows, and they live on the edge of a meadow, in a little cottage on the edge of this meadow in the high mountains of Quill. And they're a really close family. They love each other, and Brim gets up first thing in the morning. You know, she's always the first one up to get up and stoke the fire so that her dad can make a cup of tea, and the brother can scour the milking buckets and all those sorts of things. So she is basically just this really happy, contented kid in a loving family who is thrown into total disarray when she discovers that she's got feathers growing out of her elbows, and what a terrible thing that is, and how scared she is by it, especially when the School for Prevention of Witches turn up to take her away.
Oh, gives you chills.
I know.
Oh, I care for her so much right from the first, scene. She's definitely, I mean, you barrack for all of your characters because they are just so lovable, but the way you've not only invented such original characters, but then brought them all together in just such a delightful way. I mean, I always adore your books, Lian, but this one, I think, could be my favorite.
Zanni, that's lovely. Thank you.
Amazing. It's really amazing. I think kids are just going to adore it. Well, thank you for telling us a little bit about it, and congratulations on it coming out into the world. And
thank you.
Are you doing any events around the book that you want to
tell? We're having a launch in Hobart on Saturday, April 13th at the State Library of Tasmania at 10:30 a.m.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, on Friday, the 26th of April at 10:30 a.m., we're having another launch in Georgetown in northern Tasmania, also at the library.
Yeah.
And after that, I'm running a writing workshop for kids. And the following day, we're having a launch in Launceston, also at the Launceston Library at 10:30 a.m. So yeah, covering Tasmania. Just got Tasmania completely sewn up with Fledgewitch.
Lucky Tasmanians. I wish I was down there. Well, thank you again, and best of luck for your adorable characters. I can't wait to see them in the world and can't wait to hear what they get up to.
Thanks, Zanni.